Hey everyone, I'm Tassenix and welcome back to another mod guide video. This time we're covering Wat Tambor. As part of the Admiral Trench team, this support enables so much of what makes this team dangerous. But before we go into any of the details, let's go ahead and knock out the TLDR for Wat Tambor. His set types should be speed and health. I could also see you going with a two-piece of defense. We'll cover more about that later. Arrow primary should be speed. Circle should be health over protection. There's an intelligent argument to be made to go with the protection primary, but again, we'll talk about that a little bit later. I would favor health. As a survivability-based character and a high priority kill target for the enemy, this is going to be survivability primaries all the way here for circle, triangle, and cross. And yeah, I would just favor health over protection myself. Turn order. Again, in terms of modded speed, he's number 2. He does get a bonus turn at the start of battle, but I don't count that when I'm talking about turn order here. So it's Dooku usually kicking off the team, immediately followed by Wat Tambor. Stat priority should be speed as a first mark, because you do want him to be as fast as possible, just behind Count Dooku, preferably. And then after that, favor your survivability. Like I say, I like going with health, but otherwise you could go with protection. And then a little bit of potency isn't bad. He does have a damage over time that he can apply with his basic, and that would depend on passing a potency check. It isn't the end of the world if you don't optimize for it. It's nice to pick up a little bit because, of course, being that he himself is the giver of techs, he won't be receiving a tech, and therefore he won't get like a plus 100% potency buff for free. Okay, let's go ahead and dig into the leadership. We'll remind ourselves how that leadership will affect the character modding. So Admiral Trench's leadership, feared tactician. Separatist allies have plus 30% max health, max protection, and potency, and have plus 10% speed for each ally with tech and each enemy with extortion. So every one of these allies is having that increased 10% speed per these allies with tech and enemies with extortion. That's nasty stuff. And, you know, extortion is a debuff, well, I guess it's a granted ability that Newt hands out to the enemy team, and it makes life harder for them. Alright, whenever a Separatist ally inflicts a debuff on an enemy, they gain 20% offense for 3 turns. Stacking, limit once per turn. Not so important for Wat Tambor, who is a non-combatant character. While a Separatist ally has a tech, they have plus 100% potency. Great for all of Wat's allies, not doing anything for Wat. And then this last clause is talking about the tank tech, which you're giving to Django, allowing him to stay out of stealth, get some defense, get some crit avoidance, and allow him to hold the line. And that is granted by Wat Tambor. But let's go ahead and dig into his kit here with his unique Overseer. At the start of battle, other Separatist and Darkside droid allies gain max protection equal to 30% of Wat's max health. This is one of the big reasons why I would favor a health primary. He's going to just give out protection for free based on it, so why not go for that, right? Why not lean into that? Furthermore, the prevalence of protection disruption is increasing in the game. And of course, if you're a team that's really stacking up your protection and relying on protection, first and foremost, you're going to get wrecked by that, right? So that's just the second reason why I tend to favor health. Probably just this synergy alone would be enough for me. But continuing here, all Separatists and Darkside droid allies have plus 30% critical avoidance while they have heal over time, which is something that Wat and Trench Lead, I believe, also hand out. Whenever an ally with tech uses a special ability, Wat is called to assist. We'll see what that does. If there are no other ally combatants at the start of turn, Wat escapes from battle. He's like your C-3PO. He is a non-combatant character. Who else is like that? IG-11. If he's the last man standing, the fight's over. Okay? All right, his second unique, and this is where he does his thing. Mass manufacture. At the start of battle, Wat gains a bonus turn and access to the following tech in the form primary on the cross over potency, personally. All right. It's very unlikely that Wat lives long enough to get out all 3 techs. It's imperative that he survives long enough to get out at least 2, I would say. So, again, I would favor the bulk. All right, let's talk about his other special here, his only real, non-granted special. Discharge Energy. Revive a random Separatist or Dark Side droid ally at 100% health and grant all allies protection over time, 30%, for 2 turns. Trigger the healing of all heal over time buffs on all allies and the damage of all damage over time debuffs on enemies. Alright, so all those little bonuses stacking up from his basic and the heal over time from Trench Lead. Stuff like that. Alright, so it is a revival effect. This is why Wat Tambor is usually priority number 1 for the enemy to kill. Handing out the techs is bad enough, but the fact is if you knock out any of his other allies, like Admiral Trench first, let's say you wanted to do that, if you don't have Wat Tambor controlled and otherwise ready to go down right after, he can just use this ability and revive the character, and you've wasted your time. So usually folks are going to take him down first, because he can otherwise bring your allies back. Okay, let's talk about team comps and turn order for just a moment. On the Admiral Trench video, which will be linked here in the comments, you'll be able to jot right over to that and get these details. I cover when you might want to use these different characters in the Admiral Trench team comp. In general, I do favor him with Admiral Trench and Count Dooku in 3 versus 3. I have recently been toying around with Jango Fett instead of Count Dooku, still with Wat though, and I like that as well. The fact is, the techs going out add a ton to the team, not just for the techs themselves, but for the Admiral Trench lead, giving out those added effects for allies that have tech. It's a big deal. So I'm almost always having Wat with Trench these days. There's very few situations where I could see myself scouting an opponent and saying, man, if I don't have something like Wat Tambor to use with my Sith Eternal, because I need to use my Darth Bane somewhere else, then I'm going to have that Wat available to use with Sith Eternal, or whichever situation I'm thinking. Otherwise, yeah, it's pretty much married to Admiral Trench. All right, in 5 versus 5, of course, this is your main team composition. Dooku, Wat, Newt, Trench, and Jango Fett. And like all of the teams shown on this page, everybody's listed in terms of their modded speed order. Okay. Alright, so that said, let's go ahead and take a look at the mods themselves. I checked some other players. I'll talk about a little bit of difference. This first one I wanted to mention, I see a couple top-rated players. This is Kabuki Warrior, by the way. He decided to go, instead of any type of bulk primary, he went with a Tenacity cross and a 2-piece of Tenacity. I see that he's got about 135% Tenacity, so maybe that will help you stand up against characters that have an incidental amount of potency. But seeing as how characters have a base of unexpressed 100% potency, and then what you actually see on the character sheet is added on top of that. So look at his own base potency is 68%. It's actually in practice 168%, which is enough to overwhelm his own tenacity, just as, so he doesn't even have any particularly high amount of potency added. So if you were really going to go for tenacity thinking, man, like, I don't want my Wat Tambor to get jammed up. I want him to be able to put out multiple techs in a row and resist control effects. Fine, but you got to be pushing that tenacity way on up, close to like 180, as close to maybe, as 180 plus. You really want to have an outrageously high tenacity if you're trying to resist people's real potency in the modern game. But I wanted to cover it because he's also going with the protection. If you get the 30% health and protection from the Admiral Trench League regardless, so pound for pound, you could say that protection might do more. But there's also, even though there is protection over time for the team as well, there's also heal over time, and I feel like I'm happier with having the health primaries, especially when you're thinking about that Wat unique that's giving out the max protection based on his max health. Okay, so that said, let's jump over and take a look at mine. Mine is like a lot of players. Now, this would ideally be health primary. Oh, wait, no, sorry. This is still Newt Gunray. My bad. Pop up, my dude. All right, there we go. This is all correct now. All right, so yeah, speed and health sets I went with. Speed primary arrow. Health in for triangle, cross, and circle. And then, yeah, my Dooku is #1 speed on the team. He's 360 right now, so Watt could be as fast as 359, and I'd be okay with it. I do like Dooku to be just the very fastest modded, so if I ever have a conflict between the speed mods that I'm going to put on either character, I would bias them towards Dooku. Otherwise, yeah, him being in the 340s is completely fine. You don't need to be that fast. It's just about him having really, I like him. I like him pretty quick though. I mean, like 320 plus, 330 plus, 340. I think is excessive for most people. But it's, I mean, it's nice that he'll come around and do specials all the quicker. And him just having a very large health pool means that, he's the protection up is going to be serious. Uh, the heal over time will have high value. Of course, the leadership's going to be banging for him. But yeah, as an object of focus for the enemy team and a guy who's handing out survivability to his allies, I like the health angle. He's just under 120k at Relic 8. There's a lot of super top ranked players that have him at Relic 9 just to have him be all the master. It's something I think about. It's pretty low priority for me. There's a bunch of attackers or tanks I'd rather expend that type of resource on, but it is something I occasionally think about. All right. A little bit of armor, of course, is nice. So that's why, I said it in the TLDR, you could have a two-piece of defense. Defense will help mitigate burst damage, right? Health is better over the course of the fight. It gives you, a larger base to start with, but then you're getting more restoration out of heal over time and things like that. A counterpoint could be having the defense two-piece stops you from taking damage that needs to be restored back in the first place. So I could see that as an intelligent option, increasing up his armor as well. All right. As far as applications go, I will again refer you back to the main Admiral Trench video where I discuss what type of teams you would need to take against Admiral Trench comps that are featuring Wat Tambor. I do cover that for 3 versus 3 and 5 versus 5. Now you might be thinking, oh Tess, you're never using any of these on attack? You're never using Trench on attack? I've used them occasionally. It's not often that the meta disfavors having Trench down, but it does happen. And when that happens, and I keep him on offense, it's usually as a cleanup that's really super solid. But if you look at the team kits, you can find a variety of punishing applications on offense. So I wanted to mention that because all of my explanations about this team are assuming he's on D, where this team does great work. All right, this is the last video in the Admiral Trench faction, so this wraps it up. I appreciate you guys' interest in asking for this one. We've got some great stuff coming up in the very near future, all stuff that's been very hotly requested by you, the viewer. And if you've enjoyed this video, please give it a like, hit subscribe on the channel to see more. Always appreciate your comments here on YouTube and getting a lot of questions, interactions in Discord these days as well. Always a pleasure to see. Love helping people out. Love to see you guys helping each other. But otherwise, until next time, it's been real. It's been awesome. It's been real awesome. Take care.